Dawson Rider with you.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for the Digimon Adventure 2020 Reboot. It has officially returned from its hiatus that unfortunately got hit with a hiatus like everything else did, but the unfortunate thing about this one is that it was right at the beginning of its run. So I found this to be a pretty enjoyable, if not generic, episode to come back on. Like, I liked it, you know, quite a bit, but it wasn't really a huge episode. The primary purpose of it was basically to integrate Sora more into things. We got a little bit explanation on some stuff. It looks like next week, though, is going to be a bigger week. But as for this week, we pick up where we left off with Tai just having shown up in the digital world. And I want to reiterate what I said at the last review before the hiatus. I really love the look of the digital world in this series. Like, it's got this really good mix of like its own unique spin for this series, but also I feel is very much in spirit of the original digital world. Like, obviously it was more simplistic art style back in the day, but I always loved the vibe of the original digital world and the way they made it seem like this Narnia-like world, but with this whole digital aspect and like random stuff like photo booths and stuff showing up. I don't think we've seen any of that yet, but I just love the aesthetics of it, like it's got, and especially in the new animation. But anyway, 1 minute of gushing about the new digital world over. So Agumon and Tai are there, and they're trying to figure out what's going on and why Izzy isn't there, and then Sora shows up, who's been brought there, and they're kind of trying to figure out how the signal and everything is related and what they're doing there and why Izzy's not there and how they can help with the stuff going on, because they know that there's a correlation between what goes on in one of these digital worlds and the real world. And they kind of start walking, and then they end up encountering a bunch of different Digimon, and then they encounter Biomon, who jumps into Sora's arms, and shortly after a Sneemon attacks them, and they end up taking refuge by jumping into a river, and then they take a break after coming out of the river, at which point they're put into contact with Izzy via the Digivices because they can do little hologram talks. And Izzy has ended up in the network world, and he's sort of discussing with them like what they're gonna do, and that he ended up there, not the digital world, and that he met Tentomon and all that good stuff. And he kind of talks about how the world he's in is, like I said, the network world. And the way he describes it is it's like almost a way station. He says the digital world is like deep inside one of the passageways of the network world. That's the way I understood it. Like, because the network world is essentially very reminiscent for me of Digicords. Like, the way I kind of see it is like, here's the real world, and then there's the network world in between, the digital world somewhere over here. In a way, the way he described it kind of reminded me of like Wreck-It Ralph, where there's like that electric socket dimension where they all can go into the different video games. Like, I don't know if there's going to be any other worlds, but that's what it reminded me of. So we get a little bit of details about the way that works, and that they're trying to figure everything out and all that jazz. And then Sora and Tai make a raft because Sora bought some Season 1 clothes supplies as well as a saw so that they can make a raft. They head down the river when they get attacked by Colemon, or aka Coleslawmon, which leads to Agumon fighting him and digivolving, and we get the first appearance of the official Digivolution sequence. We got to see it hinted at in like one of the little teasers before it came back from a hiatus, but up until this point we've just basically done Insta Digivolution, so it was cool to see. And there's like parts that are a little bit reminiscent, kind of echoing back to the original one. It like kind of echoes a lot of the different ones, but he basically has this thing where he like projects what he's gonna look like and then fills into it. I thought it looked pretty cool. So Greymon fights Colemon, and again, it's really cool to see all these fights because the animation looks so good, and even though I think the show still holds up for the most part, the original one, it's basically like turn-based animation where you just see the same animations attacking each other, so it looks really good. But then meanwhile, Sneemon returns, and Biomon and Sora affirm their bond, and she digivolves for the first time, and she doesn't get her full Digivolution sequence yet. She gets her Insta sequence, and Birdramon happens and defeats it. And it's funny because Birdramon's attack is still Meteor Wing in this version, because for all the other ones, like in my head, when he says Baby Flame, I'm saying Pepper Breath with Agumon's English voice, because Baby Flame sounds so weird. And I was like ready. I'm like, okay, I got Birdramon's voice keyed up in my head. And then they said Meteor Wing. I'm like, oh, it's like it is. So that's pretty much where we left it off. Tai and Sora are heading towards this like digital mountain that they think is correlated to what's causing problems in the real world, and then at the end they kind of get binoculars and see like into it, and they can see the temple with Seraphimon, like not like him, but a statue of like some of the celestial Digimon. And next week sort of talks about how it's gonna be, it seems like it's gonna be like an episode where we learn more about the origins of the Digidestin in this version, maybe start getting the ball ball rolling on that. And like earlier in the episode, like at the beginning, when before Tai and Sora took off, they found a little tablet like addressing the Digidestined more or less. So like I said, it was kind of just an average episode, but I found it to be very enjoyable. I kind of appreciate the slow burn we're like introducing the characters with and all that stuff, and I liked kind of having this episode to introduce Sora and Birdramon while having a little bit of progress. Some of the, you know, adventuring felt very classic Digimon. I like kind of the mix of that feel and setup with a little bit of new stuff too, the way that the network world works and all that. I'm definitely looking forward to getting more into, you know, the mythology and learning more next week, because even though I like the slow burn, I want to learn a little bit more. And you know, we didn't even see any of the other Digidestined in this episode hinted at. Like basically Joe and Mimi and whatnot have only ever been just hinted at, so it's definitely a slow burn. There was also a hint at Ogremon at the end of the episode, which was kind of cool. Like, I'd say that's one of the things I'm enjoying about this season, is I think they're doing a good job at building mystery, and that gets almost enhanced a little bit for those of us that have seen the original show, because not only there's a mystery of like, okay, what's the mythology, what's the story here, but we know about all these different puzzle pieces, and it's kind of interesting to see how they'll fit together differently. But yeah, overall, a solid episode to return on. I would give it a 7.5. Nothing too spectacular, but I thought it was enjoyable. Looking forward to next week to finding out more. But what did you guys think? Did you enjoy this episode? Are you excited to have it back and to learn more about this version of the adventure world? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.